How many dogs do you have, and what race are there?
We have 3 dogs, 1 boxer and 2 Rhodesian Ridgebacks.
For how many years do you already are you a dog owner?
I think for the past 8 years, but then we had a break, and most of my grown life we've had dogs. I grew up with dogs and animals. Also, I grew up on a farm when we always had dogs.
Yeah.
My wife's family always had dogs. So.
Yeah. Well, I never owned a dog. We had a cat in our home, and I cannot personally imagine what does it take for personal life. So does it need? Do you need to wake up early to walk the dogs?
No, not really. They are very regular routine. Of course, they need a lot of exercise every day.
Yeah.
But we take turns and have kind of a rather strict plan with it, so it works really well.
Yeah. A few times when we spoke together, we spoke about going into nature to relax and also clear our heads. Do you manage to take some of the dogs with you for those longer walks in the nature?
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the. It seems pointless to not bring them along,
Okay.
So, they're if we're out in nature, they're always with us.
Amazing. I must congratulate you for another incredible album. Armouries is another great piece of your work. I cannot make more compliments, honestly. It's almost like it's every time. I don't know how you do that, man. Incredible album again.
Oh, thank you. Very kind of you to say. I just, I do my best.
It's really interesting, and I also have to compliment you for your talent to make such a great work so quickly, I must say. So, how were you for the past months? Because I feel we spoke about Arctis just like a few months ago. It's incredible.
Yeah, but I guess it's almost two years, I think, till Arctis was. Of course, this album has been finished for some time. I think I actually had the finished master by January 3rd. So, but usually that's kind of been my routine to like every second year. I have a new album ready. So, and of course, compared to other bands, I haven't been touring as extensively.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of bands may have longer breaks in between albums because they're spending so much time on the road as well.
Absolutely. When I was thinking about this album, same as Arctis and same as Das Sellenbrechen, if I can take those 3 albums, we journalists and fans, we tend to compare. Personally, Das Sellenbrechen still stays my absolute favorite, even though Arctis and Amar are also incredible. But I sort of feel the Arctis and Amar follow certain pattern as they feel as cousins to me. Das Sellenbrechen was, according also to your words, multiple times, sort of the unusual experiment. How would you personally compare these 3 albums, if I may ask you?
Well, as you say, the Das Sellenbrechen was definitely a very deliberate kind of side channel, if you will, and with having done a lot of very structured music for so many years, and I think it was at that point, as a 5th album, I felt I needed to kind of reset the parameters and give myself a proper new challenge, to kind of give up a bit of the control, and that was the result. And, as a contrast to that, I kind of wanted to do almost the opposite, with Arctis, as I'm sure we spoke about, that to kind of keep the far more rigid kind of pop rock song structure. Challenging myself to fill those 3 to 5 minutes, or that traditional formula that all the music that I grew up with, from Iron Maiden or Judas Priest or Kiss and all these, they kind of 95% of all that music is kind of within that same traditional formula. So with Arctis, that was kind of the main goal. And as you say, this is kind of a cousin to that, if you will, in that respect, because I've still kept on to that formula.
Yeah.
To try and write. Obviously, I wanted to write an album that feels like an album, where all the kind of songs at some level are connected together.
Yeah.
But within that original framework that I imagined this album to be, of course, I want to stretch the parameters of how I can express myself, towards that common ground, and but still wanting to create very individual songs, that kind of in themselves stand out and have a certain character, maybe some very recognizable motive or phrase. It's but again, this time with very, very different instruments and all different kind of core atmosphere and idea at the heart of it.
Absolutely. I feel that as you're saying, the spectrum is quite wide, and I can feel some very melodic and accessible and beautiful melodies, same as being extremely dark. So I would, starting with the melodic aspect. So let's say, what are your lifetime loves, let's say, within intelligent pop?
Of course, from the early days, I guess, Aha, Norwegian Aha was a big influence, I would say, because just beautiful melodies and really kind of bombastic, at times, and also kind of dramatic, which I guess always appealed to me. And what else? I mean, you could say. I think my preference is to melodies and phrases. It comes very much from the Iron Maiden, that sort of thing, because there's always these beautiful melody lines. In between.
Absolutely.
But as for pop, all pop records since growing up, I would definitely hold Aha.
Understood.
I think there are even some kind of hints of that even on Emperor's Anthems.
Are you talking about this melodic aspect? Have you, during the past years, came across some also, let's say, some negative feedback from the fans, and especially the shock by being sometimes very, very melodic? If I may also say, I'm just asking because I absolutely believe that artists should go whatever the direction he or she wants. Let's say I always tell an example of the American band called the Black Queen, which is a side project of the Dillinger Escape Plan singer Greg Puciato and guys from Nine Inch Nails and from Tel Aviv. It's extremely melodic, beautiful 80s synth pop. It was a shock for the fans, but I believe the artist always should go the direction he was. So feel always free to experiment with the melodic side.
Absolutely, and I think I've kind of given up, this trying to be for a long time. I never really tried, but this being in sync with your listeners, it's very hard, because I think it takes listeners often very much more time to kind of develop that relationship to the songs, and so and I guess by the time an album is out for an artist, you're almost already bored of the songs. So I like to say that to honor the fact that people actually, go buy the albums, go, hear the songs on the shows and everything. Of course, you're very dependent on fans actually picking up the music, and paying it attention.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the most decent thing to do, for me, especially within this kind of underground music scene,
Mm-hmm.
it's I think whether fans are so conscious about it or not, I think they're drawn to this style of music because they want something that is honest, something with integrity,
Yes.
and that is not polished to fit a certain part of the market or to make things more accessible or what have you. So I think it's kind of the most decent thing. It sounds, of course, it's very, very selfish, to not care and just do whatever the hell I want.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, by doing so, that's kind of the most decent thing to kind of deliver to that kind of audience, if you will. So, and I hope I've built. I kind of get the impression from when when meeting people who have a relationship to this music that there's a kind of trust there that people. I think I've been doing this for such a long time now, and I think it's quite obvious that I haven't really stuck to one single expression.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think people expect me to kind of do different things, and express myself in other ways.
Absolutely.
And that maybe one album is not their cup of tea, but maybe then I think they trust that maybe the next one might as well be. So for me, it's like been very influential. I like to use OK Computer
Mm-hmm.
from
Mm-hmm.
Radiohead as an example.
Yeah.
They had immense success, and still that is probably regarded as one of the most prestigious, indie rock albums to date.
Absolutely.
And their response to that success was to make an electronic album.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And still, they kind of changed everything. But at the end of the process, even though it's an electronic album with Kid Day, it still sounds undeniably like Radiohead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is kind of an ideal for me, like David Bowie or any of these artists, that I love and like Prince, for example, who's like so uncompromising.
Absolutely.
But at the end, and they did all this different and wonderful music, but at the end of the day, it was undeniably them. You could hear immediately. It didn't sound like someone else. It just sounded like them in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what my ideal is, and that's what I aspire to do as well. Not comparing myself to those artists at all, but just as a state of mind and as an ideal. And I think that is a very honest communication to fans as well.
Absolutely. I totally agree what you're saying. Go wherever your heart leads you to, and we trust it will be still genius. And don't worry, we're already speaking about you as the David Bowie and Prince of avant-garde progressive metal. So get used to that.
No. There's no comparison.
Yeah, absolutely, but still, big respect from everybody, and I always trust that the result will be amazing, as it is. And if I may also ask about the really dark aspect of your music, personally, still the Tacit 2 from Das Ellenbrechen still stays the heaviest, darkest thing I ever heard in my life. I find it incredible. You haven't given us this level of extreme this time. However, you're still staying very loyal to the dark aspect of your music. So even though now you're still sometimes active with Emperor, but in general, how do you stay connected to the, let's say, the heaviest black metal aspect of your heart, we can say?
Well, I think that at the bottom of everything, that is kind of the source I create from. You know, I kind of made a mistake. It wasn't a mistake, but I mean, I kind of got that thrown back from different medias, because in the press release for this album I said something like, I always intend to make the darkest possible album ever. You know, and I think for people who are kind of well known with this music, or this type of music, they would know what I meant. But maybe people a bit outside of that kind of most dedicated crowd will probably misunderstand. So in that respect, I could probably say, you know, I always intend to make the most profound type of album. And it sounds a bit bombastic, but then again, I've never been drawn to the easygoing, dancey, you know, everyday light style of expression. You know, I'm drawn to this music because I like to kind of dig into those deep human existential questions. You know, I would. It doesn't really have to be, you know, overly philosophical all the time, but it's just, how can I put this? It's never really the, you know, the light comedies that give you this thrills. You know, it's often the more dramatic and maybe even sad or distressful, you know, pieces of art that kind of have the biggest emotional impact.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of what I'm drawn to. And so it's natural for me to express myself in that way as well. Because it's often very associated with being very depressive or negative. But I think for me it's rather to be connected to those kind of existential, you know, basics of being human.
Yeah.
The things that really are so profound, you can't really, you know, put them into words.
Absolutely.
You know. Always. So, and that's something I find with music, that is such a beautiful thing, that it can kind of communicate those things, you know, in between humans, that we don't really always have the right words to express.
That's more than understandable, but still I will kindly ask you if we can stay within this topic and to try to for me to understand it more, because I was listening to your album mostly when I was trying to get away from Prague, busy city, and go into the nature, climb short mountains, and it was always very motivational to keep my mind going and think about some of the lyrics that you're talking about, and it helped me a lot to still sort of filter out and more figure out ideas as life goals, enjoying the emptiness, and also at the same time fight for my freedom in a complicated life journey. So I was just wondering if this is some of the areas or the messages you wanted to share.
I guess it's of course very open for interpretation, but I think a lot of the perspectives I've had, especially on Arctis and also this one, I guess Arctis was perhaps my most positively laden album to date. But still, it's I guess for the last two albums now that I've taken on of a very wide perspective. So as the opening title suggests, you know, lend me the eyes of millennia. You know, looking at a current situation, you know, from the perspective, you know, almost like a godlike millennial perspective. You know, suddenly these current conditions, you know, are perhaps very, very different, and it's like we would. Maybe a bad example, but I mean, some kind of like the First World War, the Second World War. It's now something abstract.
Mm-hmm,
You know, we look back at it, you know, from a long way, you know, behind, and then review it, and we kind of we're rational about it in you know what not to do and what to learn from it, you know, or this is very hard to explain. I mean, it's I'm kind of fascinated with you know, events or people, you know, if you freeze it in time or extend time, you know, and take things out of their natural time, it becomes something else. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I'm still trying to combine it because I also feel from what you're saying, sort of the clash of the generations, what meant to be important for the people in extreme situations, as in war, are different to us today.
Yeah, but also, if you imagine just something, to put it more mundanely, I mean, being in a war zone, seeing your friends or comrades being slaughtered, of course, it's just a horrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if that battle, you know, had a huge impact, and some painter then paint a beautiful picture of that particular battle, suddenly it's this thing of beauty.
Absolutely.
You know, or like the crucifixion in itself, a horrible, you know, act of torture.
Mm-hmm.
But for millions of people, it's the most beautiful thing they know. You know, and I refer in the lyrics to like marble statues, and I'm sure we've all seen these, you know, marble statues of human in this kind of immense despair.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but because it's kind of frozen in time and into stone like that, this expression, this kind of emotion, becomes something extremely beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it kind of interests me how, particularly, you know, different art expressions can kind of turn all that around. You know, and we can kind of relate to those moments of despair. And I think at some level we all kind of can relate. But of course we can kind of channel those emotions, you know, towards a subject like that.
I believe these ideas of yours were enhanced also by reading some interesting books and watching movies about these sort of the conflicts. Personally, I love Second World War documentaries, but also some movies. Recently, I just got some 2017 Finnish war movie. I forgot what is it, the name, The Unknown Soldier. I'm also wondering if these are sort of the expressions from those who experience that, or somebody very close within these insane lifetime situations. So where were some of the sources for you to gather a better, bigger perspective?
I don't know, really. It's a bit from here, a bit from there. You know, it's hard to say sometimes. I think just aesthetically, I think the last, you know, the Hannibal TV series.
All right.
Has been kind of influential, both because it's so artistically made. You know, even though it's kind of contemporary crime stuff, it's still, you know, these Stanley Kubrick like, you know, symmetrical scenes. You know, and I guess the main character of the series, I think he distances himself from, you know, humans. You know, he kind of acts out like this kind of Lucifer or you know, Übermensch kind of perspective, and sees everything like a game, and I think it's very intelligently played how through that kind of very cold, I would say, but it's not even cold, but it's just that kind of taking on that kind of godlike perspective. You know, a lot of the internal human conflicts become very, very trivial. If you will.
Yeah.
And you can feel it watching it. That you see, he's the bad guy. You're still kind of rooting for him a little bit because it's kind of refreshing that perspective, because watching this through his eyes, it becomes less important.
All right.
Don't quote me on that, because everybody would just misunderstand.
Okay, I'll skip that one. Don't worry about it. But the main part is you gave us an incredible tip for me and my girlfriend to watch to start a new series tonight. Come on, I watched all the Hannibal movies, and I sort of waited for that extra recommendation for somebody to start a new series. So Hannibal it is. So thank you, Ihsahn.
Is that still on Netflix though? Because I think they took it down.
Oh, I guess it is. We might check it. There are definitely more sources where to get it. We have also some of the Czech sources to watch the series. So thanks for the tip.
Well, it's insane. I mean, if you love the movies, I think the movies are too. It's Silence of the Lambs, obviously, it's good, but it's very kind of cannibal. It's kind of. I think, but then again, I remember when I saw the TV show was coming on, I thought, okay, who the fuck's going to play Hannibal Lecter after Anthony Hopkins? I mean, Mads Mikkelsen absolutely kills it.
Yeah.
No pun intended. But it's insanely well played, and it's so cinematic. It's absolutely beautiful, and I love the fact that it's brutal in a way, but the violence is never really part of it. You kind of just see the result, and it's always presented as a piece of art, and that's what I find it fascinating. I'm not condoning that the violence, but it just you will see.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Are you watching this? Have you started watching this series with Heidi?
Yeah, we watched it together.
Okay, beautiful. Well, it sounds great. You're also watching the series, and if I may ask regarding her slightly personal question, I mean, I believe it helps your relationship to be watching the series which interests you together, same as being creative, both of you having your own projects. So I believe, if I may say, it's very good for the relationship for both people to be very active and to find the creative side similar.
Oh, absolutely, and I think the series had more appeal to me than it did to her. But I think she liked it, but the few times we actually have time to watch television, it makes sense to do it together.
Absolutely.
And also, as I say, creatively, we have our separate projects, but obviously she's my most invaluable partner creatively, also for my solo stuff.
Yeah.
She's the one I go to every time I'm stuck at something. I mean,
Beautiful.
it's her idea. The cover artwork, having the chair there is her idea. Even the title she came up with this time, and I think also with Arctis. And she found the Edgar Allan Poe poem that I used for the bonus track.
Beautiful track, yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of have that collaboration. Hopefully, I have some similar function for her as well.
Beautiful. Before, a few times we spoke about your Aristides guitar, but tell us how did you manage to build a relationship with your guitar over time, as it's quite rebellious and revolutionary guitar. So I believe you managed to build a relationship over the years, and still over the years discover new benefits of this guitar, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I was pretty much sold as soon as I tried, the first guitar they sent me to try out. I was obviously as most skeptical to composite guitar, without wood, which is very unorthodox. But I think from everybody I know who ever kind of picked up one of their guitars and tried it, it's very obvious, I think, for guitar players, that you pick up an instrument that is so well balanced, and playing it, it's I think just because it's made as a synthetic product like that, that it's very reliable, and that's it's the audio that it's made of that kind of creates the core of the guitar, is a patented substance that is meant to kind of emulate a perfect piece of wood for guitars. And so to put short, it's as with many wooden instruments, and I've had the privilege of playing quite a few very fine, custom shop instruments over the years, but nothing can really compare to the Aristides guitars I'm now playing, because as working tools, the aesthetics is something. I mean, they have crazy finishes and all that, and I guess whether you enjoy old school looking guitars or modern, that's something different, and I love the way they look. So, but just as working tools, having an instrument that will stay untwisted, on tour, when you fly with them, from temper changes, anything that will resonate just as fully, in any register of the fretboard. I have several guitars, wooden guitars, that they may sound good for some parts, and other parts they will not have that resonance. And I think I have 6 Aristides guitars by now, and they all, the difference is, of course, with the amount of strings or pickups and all this, but individually they sound great in all registers. And just as for me as a musician, and having working tools in the studio and on the road that sound so well and is so reliably well, easy to play.
Nicely said.
So that's you probably have to shorten that down a bit.
No problem.
I mean, I've been in a privileged position to play, say, some great instruments over the years, but I'm really a heartfelt, rooter for Aristides, because it's such an unorthodox thing to do, to make kind of high-end instruments of any kind, really, that is not made of wood. So I think their philosophy is just with customer support and everything.
Yeah, nice.
Because I think they're very easygoing people. I've visited the factory twice, and everybody, they're really down to earth, really cool guys, just very down to earth. But the 2 things they never really, there are 2 things they take, ultimately seriously, and that is the quality of the instrument and their customer support. And as being a representative, artist for the brand as well, it is a big deal for me that if people see, myself or any of the other artists, play one of these instruments and think, okay, I'd really like to buy one of those guitars myself. In many cases, when you do this with other guitar companies, you would probably get a guitar that looks like it. There's really no guarantee that you will get the exact same guitar.
Yeah.
But in this case, you will actually get the exact same guitar.
Well, I'm so glad to hear about the customer service, and I'm also grateful for the longer answer, as we made a big article about Aristides guitars, And as our readers are also gear and guitar fanatics, it will be very useful. But when you mentioned also the exchange of ideas between the users, so were there some user tips exchanged with the guys from Lepros? I spoke with Toro, and is also big time Aristides loyal user.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, this is a situation that, of course, I'm very close with Lepros guys, and when I first got to try these instruments, I think, and I was so overwhelmed, it was natural for me to discuss this with Toro and Øystein, that when he was still in Lepros, and of course they got to try my guitars and was very convinced, and I introduced them as Mark Holcomb from Periphery actually introduced me to Aristides. You know, so it's very much word of mouth, and Aristides they don't do like big campaigning with adverts and everything. They kind of built the entire customer group and their kind of way into the market, just word of mouth.
Absolutely, that's also that's very positive.
Yeah, and I feel I get special treatment, as an artist, because I get, when they build me a guitar, they will send pictures of every part of the process, and they will follow up, with pickup options and everything like this. But then I know even your regular, guitar player enthusiast at home in your room, if you order a guitar from Aristides, you will get exactly that same, follow up, and all their instruments are, in the end, custom instruments, and you will really take part of this. A friend of mine in Oslo recently bought a 6-string, and having tried one of mine, and just getting that personalized, with color, the finished, what kind of pickups, how you set it up, everything, that whole process, and then going to the Netherlands to pick it up, and get the tour of the factory. It's a very personal thing.
I checked also your overall collection of guitars, and it surprised me you also have a piece from the signature model of Ibanez Pat Metheny, which is legendary jazz guitarist. So I'm just wondering if you're still using this one or other rare pieces for studio and a little more atmospherical riffing at home at peace.
I'm almost sad to say that most of my previous guitars are basically now in storage. But I keep some of them around. I have, of course, some of my Ibanez's still close to the studio. I have a Jerry Donahue Telecaster and some acoustics. But for the new album I just did, it's just exclusively Aristides instruments. I mean, it's not really that much of a conscious decision. It's just that making this album and how I work in the studio, it was just natural to reach for the instruments that I know that they're in tune, they're intonated, everything is kind of just fresh and working. There's no kind of fiddling about.
Yeah.
So obviously, I will keep my older guitars, and maybe in the future I will bring out my Telecaster, because it's kind of hard to emulate that sound, But so far I haven't. I'm still very new, to the Aristides guitars, and I still feel there are so many options, tonal options to explore with them. So I haven't really found any need for any of my older guitars.
Yeah. So how did they fit to the other aspects of your gear? I'm just also wondering for our readers regarding. I guess you're still loyal to the Black Star, but what about additional effects? And how do they work with the Aristides in general?
I think it's having that reliability and they are very sustained instruments. I think everybody who, if you just pick it up without an amp, it's actually, people are surprised, and I was myself too, at how loud it was just acoustically, and tremendous sustain. And so obviously they would work great with any gear.
Right.
And I'm still kind of with Black Star, but as a touring musician and a studio musician, there's the practical aspect of getting the tone and the reliability. So in recent years, I've actually been using a Kemper very much, for my day-to-day studio work, and then done some reamping afterwards. But also now I've recently just starting bringing my Kemper to live shows, with for mostly what I do is flying gigs, and Black Star have been super supportive to kind of arranging local amps and everything.
Yeah.
But sometimes that they don't have my preferred head in stock and you get something else. There's always a variety. But whereas with the Kemper, I have one with the powered options, so you can still run it to a cab on stage, and the floorboard. You can. There's always that element of real versus simulation. But I would argue that on festivals, for example, when you have maybe a 30-minute changeover or a 1 hour changeover, I mean, in an ideal world, if you're Joe Bonamassa and bring all your own amps on stage, and you have an engineer who kind of bring your favorite microphones, and you have isolated cabs for it or whatever, there might be a difference. But for all practical purposes, I would argue that on loud stages and everything, that a Kemper, unless you have the luxury of everything around it, it will probably sound better, even though if you bring in your own amp, especially in the festival, chaos.
Yes, I can totally imagine. I heard many compliments from Richard Kruspe from Rammstein, telling me about the latest models from Kemper. So fully understand that. And if we have still space for 2 short questions.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Actually, we have half an hour.
It's fine. I just thank you for that. It will be just 2 short ones. I'm just wondering also, what was your motivation behind inviting Frederick Eckerson from Opeth? I mean, I met him a few years ago at Brutal Assault, and he seems hardly accessible, but he's the nicest guy you can imagine. So I guess you can confirm that as well.
Absolutely. And I met him the first time. Actually doing my first solo gig with Ihsahn, because I played support for Opeth. So we met in Oslo, and since then, I mean, I know Michael from way back, and obviously we met several times at Brutal Assault. We meet in other festivals and talk music and gear, maybe go have a beer somewhere, and last time I was in Japan at Loud Park. I was there with Emperor. And he is this amazing guitar player, and he's just sailed up to be one of my absolute favorite guitar players. I mean, we're the same age, me and him, so I guess we have most of our heroes back in the 70s and 80s. But his choice of tone, his fluency as an instrumentalist is just amazing. His aesthetic sense. He has all the technical chops, but just his choice of notes and how he performs it, absolutely beautiful. And I told him how I felt about his playing, and that someday I might give him a call if he wanted to at someday contribute, do a solo or something like that. It'd be great to have him on an album. And he was into it immediately, and from then on it was just very easy. I sent him the song and the part, that I want him to play on. He just got a vintage Gibson SG, I think, that he wanted to try out for a solo, and sent me pictures of that and some pedals he wanted to use. And as most of us now do, he had his own recording setup and sent me some files. It was easy as that, and obviously the only downside of having him on the album was, of course, he puts all my playing to shame. But I knew that risk.
Wonderfully said. When you mentioned Brutal Assault, this interview will come up just few weeks before the Brutal Assault will start, and you played it a number of times, including your solo shows with guys from Lepros, with Emperor. So, what are your memories on that unique area of Brutal Assault?
Just the whole setting is in that kind of castle-like environment, and I remember the people who work there. It's all very friendly and very down to earth, really.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I've always enjoyed playing there.
Thank you for that. And for the last question, it was so nice to hear in our previous interview you mentioned Iron Maiden many times, and it's always awesome to get back to some of the classics. So personally, what is your most favorite Iron Maiden album, which you always love to come back when it hits you?
Seventh Son.
I was thinking about it. I thought that this would be this.
No, I mean, Seventh Son is probably one of the albums that I've heard the most times.
Uh-huh.
And I would say, obviously, when I started out, there was no YouTube or internet or anything. So I would argue that most of what I've learned, from playing guitar, I learned from playing along to Seventh Son.
Wow. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's a big, and I also went to see the Seventh Son tour on October 5th, 88. And honestly, since the the first song, I can't remember having a plan B with my life.
Nice to see.
Actually, that album and that tour has been like super important for me. And I actually did some different interviews on that subject alone now on the occasion of the 20th anniversary of Seventh Son.
Nice.
No, the 30th anniversary.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Is that the reason for some specific songs, or rather the atmosphere? Let's say if we take Somewhere in Time, it has specific production. Specific production is also for the Seventh Son. There is also this magnificent giant progressive piece, which I also love to come back. But there are also nice competitions like Rhyme of the Nation, Mariner. There are also Alexander the Great. So there are always these specific longer tracks. So what are the reasons for Seventh Son? Is this the production, the title song? What is the reason?
I think as you say, all the Iron Maiden records, and I think records often from that era. That's why I still kind of think very much. When producing new music, I always think of it in the context of a full album, where all the songs kind of make up a bigger part. And like as you said, that Somewhere in Time has a certain. I think it's very, for me, Somewhere in Time is very much an Adrian Smith style album. It's not necessarily like that, but because he's kind of singing with wasted years and everything, that riff and all the chorus with the guitars, and but it still sounds kind of futuristic because of that. In the same way that Power Slave, with just having those few, with on the title track and everything, those few kind of Egyptian sounding, riffs, with those scales, it gives an impression that the whole album, feels like the cover artwork. And the same with Seventh Son, and I think I know from after I didn't realize at the time. I just thought it was a natural thing. But that Seventh Son was criticized by many because they used keyboards. For me, that was probably some of the reason why it's such a massive album for me, because that added dimension. And obviously, this is something that I've brought in with my own music as well. And it's almost funny to see how much those albums have influenced how I put together an album myself. So many years later, because I often will also have, this kind of division of tracks that there will be some kind of ballady thing, song on my album. There will often be a long epic piece.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so for me, all you know, the way Iron Maiden albums are put together has kind of been like an instinctual blueprint for me as well of what an album should contain.
Yeah. Fully understand. Fully understand. I can totally agree. Plus, you also we are very inventive regarding the production. You're not afraid to include instruments as saxophone because it simply fits. So I'm so glad you're taking that inspiration from the early days.
Yeah, I mean it's everything good. You know, at this age, you know, I only differentiate between two genres, and it's music that, you know, does something positive for me, and music that I'm indifferent to. You know, it's I'm a big fan of great music, not so keen on bad music.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Absolutely, nicely said. Ihsahn, thank you once again for keeping some time with me. I will let you know when the front cover will come up. I will try to arrange a very short meeting at Brutal Assault to say hi and give you a hard copy. Wishing you all the best and see you hopefully at Brutal Assault.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for all the support.
All the best. All the best. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
You too. Bye bye.